All right, Steve Poikonen is back. One of my favorite people to talk about these topics. The last time you were on, the USDA wanted us to register our gardens with the government. They called it the People's Garden Project or something like that. So that was a fun episode. If you missed that, definitely go back and check it out. Steve's now back because the Telegraph ran this article citing a University of Michigan study. The title is Carbon Footprint of Homegrown Food 5 times greater than those grown conventionally. Essentially saying that growing your own food is not as good for the environment as expected. I always love it when media says stuff like that, like as expected by who, like who expected to be this or that. But anyway, so they started off by saying it may not be as good for the environment as expected because, according to this University of Michigan study, the carbon footprint based on, say, the construction of raised beds, for instance, is much higher, 6 times higher than a mass monoculture farm, industrial agriculture. And they don't really talk about nutrition or economies or anything like that. It's all about carbon. So I don't know. Should we start there? I mean, what do you think about, just generally speaking, I guess, the idea that they're presenting, which is, hey, you might want to reconsider your garden if you care about, I'm guessing, climate change, right? That's the only reason why they would care about carbon, right? Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's talk about
Well,
that first.
so we've fooled people into believing that that all of the carbon in the world is bad. It's a negative thing. It's something that we should reduce or eliminate. The same people that are telling us that are the same people who are also creating carbon markets so they can trade the imaginary carbon that they capture, and then they can sell it back and forth to each other and leverage other countries to fall in line in other political ways because of their carbon score or their carbon footprint or their impact reports. And all of this is imaginary. It's all imaginary. We've known, like we've known our entire lives, that all living things, if you don't exhale carbon dioxide and breathe in oxygen, we're going to die. And the inverse is true for plants. And so we have this nice natural system where, even Allison, when volcanoes erupt and the carbon output created by those is more in one event than the entirety of the combustion engine to now, from the invention of the combustion engine to now, we have to believe that it's our fault. We're dirty, filthy humans. These are also the same people that are never going to address the fact that the United States military, according to even their own metrics, is the world's largest global polluter. By that, I mean they operate in more places globally where they're polluting, whereas China or India, as an individual entity, probably pollutes more. The point being is that they're never addressing the real problems. They're trying to make this an individual responsibility for something that, by and large, if you walk away a little bit from the guaranteed paid for studies, may be more of a talking point and a scare tactic than originally marketed. So the premise of it is ridiculous.
What do you think? Because I could get on board with this part at the end, which says gardeners should also try and build their site with recycled or secondhand materials. I mean, hey, it's cheaper. Why not? That would be what I
Yeah.
would consider. And then also just make them last. This article continues to play this Defender. Somebody buy a Defender so that they'll get this video off of the articles. I can actually read it. Anyway, when I was in the news business covering the environment, one thing that was often not discussed in the conversations that the sort of typical Democrat nonprofit, environmental nonprofit would bring up with legislation would be life cycle analysis. Like, for instance, they would not want to tell you about the life cycle analysis of a hybrid or an electric vehicle, right? Because they just want to talk about the output. But so it's interesting to me when we look at a garden and you say, somebody like building over and over and over again. I heard also, for instance, somebody say once that going to a farmer's market was worse for the environment because all the people driving to the farmer's market and all the farmers driving to the farmer's market, So I've heard this argument before, but it's always interesting to me when we look at life cycle analysis of something that, like, okay, well, maybe we want to sell this as not so good, but if it's something that we do want people to buy into, but the life cycle analysis is poor, we just don't talk about. We talk about output. So I just think it's interesting when you see the framing of these, and also the fact like this, they don't talk about the positives of it from, fertilizer into the Mississippi River or, pesticides, that stuff. It's just about carbon. So I just think it's interesting. I mean, we wouldn't even have this article if we didn't care about, like what you said earlier. If we didn't care about this idea of carbon in the environment, these studies would not even exist. There would be swaths of gazillions of dollars of funding for studies that would immediately go away. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. And because of this exact issue right now, there are tractors and farmers on the highways and in every major city all over Europe. This is something that has been happening throughout the world over the last several years, where everyone who's involved in non-mega monoculture agriculture is being demonized, criminalized, being made into some sort of supervillain who's been out to get the, good Christian white boys and girls everywhere. Farmer John is out to kill you. Friends and neighbors, you should demonize this person, and you should look to us, Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab, the Dutch government, King Charles, the people who have your interests in mind at all times and who have been fighting for you throughout their decades of public service in order to get us to a point to where milk has, been up to $6, $7, $8 a gallon over the last couple of years, 13, 14, $15 for a dozen eggs. They want to separate us from nature. They want to commodify and capture all of it. They want to sell us back a facsimile of it through, funded trips to the metaverse where we can look at what a farm used to be. But the point is, they're trying to make sure that individual ownership of things goes away, that our ability to grow our own things goes away, and that we become more and more reliant on a technocratic structure for absolutely everything.
All right, we got a bunch of questions for Steve over at AllisonMorrow.locals.com. Don't forget, if you want to join my editorial board, it's only $5 a month, and you get to put in questions ahead of time for interviews. If you hate my questions, this is a great way to get me to shut up because you can put your own questions in and you can keep the podcast going and go one-on-one with some of the most censored people on the internet. However, if you prefer to just drink instead while watching the show, you don't want to participate, you're one of those people, that's totally fine too. You don't have to be a contributor. You can just be a consumer, and you go to AllisonWinePromo.com, support the show there too. Get some extremist altitude wines. You're still in your grandma's basement. You haven't even brushed your hair or your teeth today, but you still want to be an extremist and not do anything. Go get some extremist altitude wine. You won't end up in prison yet. I don't know for the future, but for now, it's safe. 50% off my favorite Malbecs from Argentina and 50% off shipping. It's a great deal and it's great wine. It's a great way to support my work. So thanks everybody who's already a wino over there. Let's take a question for Steve. AllisonMorrow.locals.com. Scrolling on down. Kind of more of a comment, but curious what you think. Blanket Mom, crazy thought here, but wouldn't homegrown be the conventional way? And also growing your own food cuts down on your carbon footprint by less trips to the store, produces plants that would clean the air in your area. But, Dave Collin was on, he's a professor over at Cornell, and he doesn't like it when people go, they play the carbon game, but they say like, it's not as bad. He doesn't like professors that say, yeah, I mean, I know, it's an issue, but it's not as bad as the media makes it sound. He's like, no. So I don't know where you fall on that end. Do you think that even conversing and discussing the carbon footprint is just playing into the decoy, I guess? So that's my first question related to this. And secondly, what do you think about the idea that we often discuss growing our own food as something new or different or boutique or bougie, and conventional is normal. We like normalize conventional, and homegrown is like kind of some bougie thing, I guess you do if you have some extra time.
So for the first question, I think it really depends on who you're addressing when you talk about it, because I agree that if you're conversing with an academic, what it does is it kind of amounts to a whataboutism sort of thing, and it can devolve and tangent off, and you'll never get to the real point, which is the people who are responsible for killing and poisoning and extorting people as their job description are the ones telling you that growing your own food and having a three-dimensional community and having fellowship with your neighbors is a bad idea. So on its face, let's throw that out. And if you can't have that conversation with an academic or a professional colleague, then, it's probably best to move on or change subjects. But if you're talking to a peer and you need to try to pull them into your way of looking at the situation, it is pretty necessary to be able to converse with those people in their language so that you can get them to so that they understand that you understand what they're talking about, because that's really what the important thing is here, is that they're being understood, not that the issue is being understood.
Okay. Hey, everyone who likes to send mail, you don't trust credit card companies. I forgot to mention I have a PO box now, so you can send me some mail, send me your pocket lint, send me a winning lottery ticket, send me some spare change. Don't send me a note that says you're going to kill me. Don't send me anything edible. I'm not going to eat it because I'm going to assume you're trying to murder me. PO Box 3355, Denellen, Florida 34432. And thanks to everybody who sends mail. I love reading the notes, love seeing your photos of your family. It's really great to get actual mail in today's world. Hosted the AM Wake Up Morning Show. Tell people where they can find you and support your work.
Heck yeah. So we stream live on Rockfin, Rumble, and Twitter Monday through Thursday with AM Wake Up. Friday, a show called The Independent Review takes over the channel. Ryan Graham is the host of that. He just sort of puts together a number of clips from various independent media shows all throughout the interwebs. Allison was on this morning. You were. There was
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
a conversation you had earlier in the week was part of that podcast today. So that live premieres on our show on Fridays. amwakeupshow.com is where you get everything else. If you're on Telegram, get in the Telegram group, t.me/amwakeup. It is a magical place. It is not for people who are easily offended. But there is a lot of really good information there, as well as some real characters, and like, I don't know, that 95% of everyone you've ever seen on the Union of the Unwanted is in there too. That's fun occasionally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a fun show, and you will definitely learn a lot for sure and be entertained at the same time. Steve, thanks again. It's always a pleasure to have you on. Don't forget, everybody, there are links in the description for more products like cod liver butter oil that I take for my teeth, muscle rub, all natural, like muscle rub, chest rub if you got congestion or muscle aches, hydroponic growth system if you want to do that and pollute the environment more. I don't know if that's more. I don't know. What do you think about hydroponics, Steve?
I would rather see it in dirt. I
Yeah.
would. I'd rather see it in dirt, and if you're not gonna put it in dirt, then I would rather see some kind of aeroponic system
Mhm.
as opposed to a hydroponic one. But I mean, it's an individual taste, I think. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm starting my in the dirt garden again now that we're coming out of the frigid Florida winter. So I'm not having as much success as I thought I was going to. I'm going to have to actually start figuring out what I'm doing. I don't really know how to garden. I just put seeds in the dirt and I thought they would just grow, but it turns out there may be a little bit of technique to it. So, anyway, Thanks, everybody. I'll be picking Steve's brain about all that because he's got a lot of experience. You guys have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.